that's part of his mental illness. But he's
Hang on, you
also,
call it a mental illness?
oh yeah,
But you're not a psychiatrist, though.
no, but you know what? You don't have to have a medical degree to know somebody is crazy.
President-elect Donald Trump continues to make headlines in the US after his landmark electoral victory 10 days ago. Earlier today, the former president made official his nomination. I should say the president-elect made official his nomination for the Secretary of the Interior in Doug Burgum. This follows two controversial nominations of Trump loyalist Matt Gaetz as Attorney General and vaccine skeptic and former independent presidential candidate Robert F. Kennedy Jr. as Secretary for Health and Human Services. The latter appointment causing the head of the American Public Health Association to release a statement criticizing the appointment, saying Kennedy has, and I quote, already caused great damage in health in the country. Well, joining me now to help understand President-elect Trump's thought process and what he makes of these appointments and the controversies is David K. Johnston, author of The Making of Donald Trump. He's also a professor at the Rochester Institute of Technology. David, welcome back to the program. We last spoke to you, I think, just before the election. How do you think it's going so far?
Henry, I think Donald's doing exactly what I and some others predicted he would do. He is finding foxes and putting them in charge of the hen houses.
Now, to what end do you think? Do you think he wants them to eat the hens?
Well, Donald, whom I've known and covered for 36 years, 1988, I wrote that he might become president of the United States. Donald, in his own mind, is special. There's no one else in America who could possibly do the job of president except him. And if you don't agree with him, he'll tell you how stupid you are, how low IQ you are, how unfit for office you are, because that's part of his mental illness. But he's also...
You call it a mental illness?
Oh, yeah.
But you're not a psychiatrist, though.
No, but you know what? You don't have to have a medical degree to know somebody is crazy. And Donald is absolutely crazy. I would say he has delusions of grandeur, except he got to the White House.
You might say he's got delusions of grandeur, but he's gone from being, yes, a Nepo baby inheriting money from his father to becoming this real estate, quotes, billionaire. And now he is master of all he surveys, and he's changed the profile of the grand old party. He's made it the Trump party, and he's doing whatever he wants. And he's got the trifecta, all the branches of government on his side come the 20th of January.
Henry, I don't disagree with you about that, but the people he's appointing to these positions, Matt Gaetz, there is video evidence of him taking part with a member of Congress in the U.S. He wants to be the next attorney general. With a 17-year-old high school girl having sex at a cocaine-fueled orgy. That was about to come out from Congress, and then Gaetz resigned to avoid that. There are going to be a lot of people who will not like the idea of such a person being the Attorney General.
Okay, hang on. But before we get to Robert F. Kennedy, the U.S. House Speaker, and you'll be aware of this, David, Mike Johnson, said he will, and I quote, strongly request that a report into allegations of sex trafficking, as you've repeated, against Matt Gaetz, who is the president-elect's choice, it's the president's choice of Attorney General, should not be released. What do you make of that statement from Mike Johnson?
Well, traditionally, if you resign, whether you're a member of Congress or a judge, they shut down the investigation and nobody sees the findings. I think that's a terrible policy. I think there should be an option or a standard procedure that we may or may not release them. But the Senate, if they hold confirmation hearings, Trump doesn't want confirmation hearings for reasons that should be obvious on Matt Gaetz. Some senators are probably going to demand to see what the House has. And among the things they have are videotape of Matt Gaetz with this 17-year-old girl.
Have you seen the video yourself?
Say it again?
Have you seen the video yourself?
No, I only know that it exists and that members have told people who've seen it what's there.
Right. So what do you think? So how confident are you that under pressure from Donald Trump, people like Senator John Thune, who's going to be the leader of the Senate, will hold fast and steadfast to the ethics? You think that they will? I mean, because under pressure, they might wilt.
Well, Henry, you've gotten to the exact crucial point. Donald nominated Gaetz and Robert F. Kennedy Jr., and some others as a test of obedience, a test of loyalty. He wants the Senate to not fulfill its constitutional duty to advise and consent on certain appointments, a requirement of the Constitution, which they could get around with something called a recess appointment, at least for a period of months. And this is really to see, will everyone totally bow down to him? Will United States senators act only as vessels to carry out what Trump wants? And whether they hold hearings, and if they do, how vigorously they investigate these appointees, that's a test of the constitutional system in the U.S. Remember, Donald wants to be our dictator. He himself said it 9 years ago. I said, Donald wants to be our dictator. If he gets to the White House, he will never leave peacefully, which turned out to be exactly the case. And Donald jokes that, if you voted in 2024, you never have to vote again. Another sign that, he believes he should be a dictator. And Donald really believes that he's special. He's the only person qualified. And he's also said, I have an Article 2 in the Constitution. I have an Article 2 that says I can do anything I want. That's not what it says.
Right. And what about, you were going to talk about Robert F. Kennedy, Trump's nominee for Secretary for Health and Human Services. And he said to him, stay away from the environment, but otherwise just go wild, make America healthy again. And some people are excited because they think he's saying the right thing about food, if not about fluoride in the water.
Well, Robert F. Kennedy, who's never held public office, who has had a very sad life since the assassination of his father in 1968, believes that vaccines are harmful, that they don't save lives. That's ridiculous. The scientific evidence is over the top about how much vaccines have reduced unnecessary deaths and blindness and injury and ill health. He holds a whole bunch of views that have no basis in fact, none, zero. And to put him in charge of Health and Human Services would, well, it's a pattern to kill people. As simple as that. If he would have the power to say, we're not going to have the federal government pay for those people who are on Medicare or Medicaid's vaccinations anymore. And if that happens, people will die. If they don't,
aren't there any guardrails, David? I mean, Fauci's gone now, but there must be people at the National Institutes of Health or elsewhere who could push back strongly, perhaps in a group, if not one voice, and say, sorry, Mr. Secretary, this is dangerous.
So Trump and his team have announced that anybody who stands in their way, whether they're generals of the United States military, prosecutors at the Justice Department, or anybody else, will be fired. They intend to eliminate as many as 500,000 of the 2 million civilian government employees. And they've made it very clear that you will kneel down and do exactly what you're told by Donald Trump and his appointees, or you're out of there. Now, the guardrail is going to be, unfortunately, litigation. Yeah. Outsiders are going to sue. And here's the problem they run into. If they get a Trump-er judge, not just a Trump-appointed judge, but one who wants to promote Donald Trump, the judge may find that they lack what's called standing, that is, a reason to sue. One of the reasons that nothing happened when Donald thumbed his nose at the emoluments clause, which says a president may not take money from foreign governments or state or local governments without the permission of Congress, was judge after judge said, well, you have no standing to sue. That is, there was no enforcement mechanism for the emoluments clause. So this is a real serious problem. The Robert F. Kennedy appointment is probably it's not only the worst, I think, in the history of the United States, but it is an appointment that will cost lives if it goes through.
David, one more thing. It's a personal one. There are some people who are very concerned because they have irked Donald Trump. He sees him as an enemy. They've attacked him in the media, etc. You've talked to us and others about Donald Trump. You've disparaged him. You've told us that you don't think much of him. You've written books about him. How concerned are you for your safety?
Well, Donald has said he hates me more than any other journalist in the world. And I have said many times that if we become a dictatorship, sooner or later, firing squads are down that road.
What?
And well, name me a dictatorship that doesn't kill people. I mean, it's a nature of dictatorships. As they go along over time, they kill people. Donald has called for executing the former head of the U.S. military, General Milley, and they're going to try and bring him back and court-martial him. He's called for shooting journalists. He's told people in his audiences to beat people up, and in one case said, "And I'll pay your legal bills if you have any," which Donald would never do. So you have to think about this not just in terms of Donald, but if we lose the liberties of the people and the Constitution becomes irrelevant, then down that road of a dictatorship, that's what eventually happens. Now, Donald has said he intends to fire many of the top generals. And I wrote and warned people 9 years ago, if Donald Trump starts firing generals and admirals and promoting majors and captains and lieutenant colonels, you should be very worried because he is setting up a military dictatorship.
All right, David, we're going to have to leave it there on that very somber note. Thank you very much to David K. Johnson, the author of The Making of Donald Trump and professor at the Rochester Institute of Technology. He's been tracking the president-elect for a number of years. Stefan isn't impressed. He says, "Oh, your guest is as mad as Donald Trump, so should you really be interviewing him?" Well, he's an expert on Trump, Stefan. You may not like his views, but he has done the work, he's done the research over a number of decades, and that's why we talk to him.